Jesus. Oh, y'all, I got a rant on deck for you right now. I almost made this video last night when it was all kind of going down, and then I decided I would take a beat and woosah, because I got triggered. I got fucking triggered big time yesterday. So oh God, I don't even know, this might just be a little bit of a ramble at this point. So I'm gonna try real hard to turn this into a coherent discussion. But we'll see, because I get pretty heated. So I'm Italian, right? And most Italians are Catholic, raised Catholic, and I was no exception. However, from a very young age, and when I say I was raised Catholic, I was not just baptized and forgotten about, right? My family took me to church, not my parents, because my parents couldn't be so bothered, but my parents also were ridiculously hungover basically every single Sunday. So they welcomed the opportunity to have older members of my family who were churchgoers take me to church every Sunday as a child. So I went to church very, very religiously, no pun intended, as a kid, and did CCD, sacraments, all the things, right? So I'm well versed in the Catholic religion, the Bible, Christianity generally, because, there's lots of different sects of it, but whatever. So from a very young age, it did not resonate with me. First and foremost, because there's no women, right? There's no female leadership in the Catholic Church, and that shit used to, even as a young girl, I was like, what? How unnatural is this, right? This just doesn't make any sense. And I have since come very much to believe that women are the stewards of the spiritual realm, and men are the stewards of the physical realm. That's why they're bigger and stronger than us, right? And that's why we as women are trusted with bringing souls in and out. I think it's a very, very clear dichotomy, and I'll probably catch heat for saying that, but whatever, fuck it. I don't give a shit. This is my belief system. It's fucking mine, and I'm allowed to have it, right? And if you resonate, great. If you don't, move on. Anywho, as I got older and started to really come into my gifts, I had a lot of trouble because the faith of my ancestors, right, the religion of my ancestors, thinks that mediumship and astrology and crystals are diabolical, right? And so you can imagine the kind of identity crisis that results for women like me who have these gifts and have them prominent from a very young age, and basically are told by the faith of their forefathers that that there's no place for them and that they're actually evil, right? So I internalized this information from a very young age, and it fucked me up. And, it caused me to repress my gifts for many, many years. It's not a good look, right? Overall. And so I made a very conscious decision to walk away from Christianity. Now, that doesn't mean that I don't love Jesus, okay? Because in my view, Jesus is an ascended master. He's one of many, right? It appears from various religious traditions that God has sent, figures like Jesus throughout time and space and cultures. He's done it quite a few times. Now, I'll give Jesus props because he's the fucking popular one, right? He definitely managed to kind of catch fire as far as ascended masters go. There's a lot of people who still believe him, but the fundamental problem that I have with organized religions is it's the my way or the fucking highway mentality, right? You have to believe what we believe, right? And my whole thing when I step back is okay, look, if there's a God, and I do believe there is one, it's the same for all of us. So by subscribing to an organized religion and basically saying this is the way, right? You have to follow Christ or else you'll never get to God. Fuck that. Okay, so all the Muslims in the world are just wrong. All the Buddhists in the world are just wrong, right? Or and basically every single religion has this, as their backbone, right? That we figured out the way. And if you don't follow our way, then you are going to hell or, whatever, right? You're not getting to God. What the fuck ever. Every religious tradition has a different version of this. I don't subscribe to any of them. Okay, I don't, and I won't, and I never will, and I have made a conscious decision not to. Now, the reason I am ranting about this right now is because I just recently met someone, and it's misfortune's been going through a fucking dry spell, which is fine because it's all coincided with all the Saturn bullshit. And I've basically didn't even bother. Like, I'm not even trying to put myself out there in any type of way, because I knew that with Saturn so present in my life that I needed to work on myself and my relationship with my kids and everything else. And I had to put all that first. But not surprisingly, as soon as Saturn moved off of my Venus, all of a sudden people started coming out of the woodwork, right? Some guy that I've been talking to on and off for several years, which fucking fizzled out again. And then this new person who literally was like kind of just like dropped in my lap last week on the day that the sun was on my Venus in Pisces, right? And it's just like so fucking bananas how that happens. But like literally on the day that the sun reached 6 degrees of Pisces, which is where my Venus sits, random person shows up in my life, and we start talking and we hit it off, right? Very, very quickly. I of course did the whole, I need to see your birthday because I need to see if there's soul contracts, and guess what? There fucking were. And we've talked about soul contracts and how much I hate them. So I was bummed to see that, but like still obviously willing to give it a chance. And in case you're wondering, like, what are the details? Well, the one that's most important right now is that my Jupiter, which is a planet of expansion and spirituality, is on his south node, right? So south node connections are never good in romantic relationships because it means that your souls have already danced this dance and they don't like each other, at least in this very specific way. And, of course, Jupiter on the south node is just a big fat indication of exactly what I encountered. So we're getting along. Everything's great. We're super like-minded on all things. He's a fucking Aquarius with a Cancer moon, right? Just like me, which is just bananas, right? And everything's going swimmingly, and then he basically tells me like, oh, just so you know, like, I'm a Christian, and I'm like a hardcore Christian. And I'm like, oh, great. Because in my experience, and again, I'm not trying to knock Christianity. He got so triggered by me, like, when we were having discussions about this, because he thinks I like hate him and that I hate Christianity and all this stuff. And it's like, no, like, I don't hate Christianity. Especially as somebody in the program, like, we depend for our survival as addicts and alcoholics, we depend on a spiritual connection. So whatever spiritual connection you have found, like whatever way to God you have found that keeps you alive, that keeps you sober, that keeps you spiritually fit, bravo. Like, seriously, fucking bravo. My problem is when it's the intolerance piece, right? And so he and I engaged in some debate about, Christianity and whether there was any place for people like me, in the Bible. There's not, right? There's not. The Bible, if you read it, is extremely clear on its position regarding divination, astrology, mediumship, all of it, right? And P.S., spoiler alert, they think that it's fucking diabolical and, from the devil and evil. And I simply can't reconcile that. Like, I can't, right? Because if I were to adopt the Bible wholesale, I would basically have to be admitting to myself that my gifts are evil. And I know with every fucking fiber of my being that my gifts are not evil. And I think you could talk to pretty much all of my client base and they will tell you that my gifts are not evil. I have helped a lot of fucking people through a lot of nasty shit. And so it's, but I also understand that people with this kind of, echo chamber of Christianity around them, they don't really understand that, right? They've just been kind of, I'll say brainwashed. I know that's not the nicest word, but it's what's coming to mind right now, into thinking that like what I do can't possibly be godly, right? But, I sit back with it and I think to myself, like, Christianity believes that God made the sky, right? God made the planets and put them in the sky. So God, they fully admit that God put us in this giant clock, but don't look at it and don't try to read it. Because that's the devil, right? The devil is what makes you want to fucking read the giant clock that God put us in. God created the plants and God created the crystals and God created all the beautiful things on here, but don't use them, right? Don't try to use them for healing. Don't try to use them to feel good. Don't try to use them to make others feel like, y'all, like, I just can't, and I'm really, like, I'm bummed out right now because I'm telling you, like, it's a fucking witch wound thing. I know that it's a witch wound thing, and I'm trying so hard to heal it, and I really thought that I had, and I have. I'm not going to go backwards. Like, I have absolutely healed so much of this particular wound, but but he picked a fucking scab off me, and I'm really feeling it today. Like, I'm smarting from it because it's just, it just really sucks that these attitudes exist, that there is so much repression within organized religion, and like just this whole idea that women, we can't, we're always fucking witches. Like, we're always relegated to being witches. We're never priests. We can't be fucking, we're not Christ-like. We can't be prophets, right? All of those Buddhas, right? Like, all of those fucking terms, all of those exalted terms in religion are reserved for men. Women get to be witches. That's what we get to be. And he actually said that to me at one point. He was like, are you a witch? And I was like, I'm just a fucking woman who believes in God, like, and has my own version of, spirituality, like, and my own ways to connect. And like, why does that makes me a witch in his eyes, and in the eyes of, like, basically all of Christianity. That makes me a witch, and that fucking sucks. Like, that sucks. And so, if I'm offending Christian followers, please, I'm more than willing to talk about this kind of stuff. But honestly, I'm really at the point with this where it's like, fuck you. Like, fuck all y'all.